Okay. Hey, everyone. My name is Marina Manuelejo, and I'm the entrepreneur in residence for the New Haven Free Public Library. This whole week, we're hosting quick 30-minute chats with local New Haven entrepreneurs about their experience with failures, how they worked through that, what their mindset is like. And today we have Will Ruiz, who's the founder of Bequest Coffee Roasters. Super stoked. He's a friend, and we're just going to hang out and talk about like what it means to fail forward. So Will, do you want to introduce yourself and then we can kind of take it away?
Sure. So my name is Will Ruiz. Call me Will. I recently launched or officially launched my coffee business that I've been working on for about 2 years. It's a great time to start an e-commerce business. So it was a perfect timing given the whole COVID thing last year. It just launched. It's called Bequest Coffee Roasters. You can find it at bequestcoffeeroasters.com.
Can I say, we were talking about coffee before we went live. I am so excited to have you on because the point you made about the pandemic is very true. I remember when everything shut down in March, I had a panic attack because I couldn't go get lattes and I had to start making my coffee at home. So I think it's really great that is kind of the time that you started.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and a lot of people are beginning to start making their own coffee and everything and having fun. The art of coffee is really fun. It's like tea or wine, so making it at home is it's like a little exciting thing. It's my morning ritual. I look forward to it. So
yeah, we're all our own baristas nowadays.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
Yeah. Also, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Colleen. I've been on a couple programs for the New Haven Free Public Library. I'm on the exchange programs, so might recognize my face, but I'm a librarian and work for the NHFPL. So I'm not just some random person asking questions, but I'll be in the side box.
Yeah. Colleen is very much official. Okay, Will, start us off and talk about when you first considered yourself an entrepreneur. I know you've had like a very long-standing history of entrepreneurship, and so when was that like click in your mind of like really leaning into that identity?
Yeah, so like officially the word entrepreneurism or entrepreneurship, it kind of like got really popular in the teens, right? So in the last like 10 years. But I had a food cart back in 2010. I started building my food cart in 2010. I bought like a little trailer. I pretty much put a food cart, basically a wooden shed on top of a trailer, and I pulled it around in my Jeep Wrangler. And I ran that for about 2 years. I think that is when I really took entrepreneurism into my kind of like life. I think you asked a really good question before about like what is entrepreneurism and like how would I define one. I really think it's like that kind of person that gets something done by, to some degree, any means necessary, but also to some degree, like, you know, the perseverance of it all, because being an entrepreneur can be a very lonely scenario because not many people or no one that you'll know will be as passionate or as you need to be. And sometimes when I'm starting new ventures, I ask potential partners, I say, listen, is this something you're passionate about? And it's not because of, you know, the long haul, but it's about those days that it gets really hard and you don't make any sales, or those days where things look bleak, that you have to be, that your passion is what really fuels you. So the food cart days definitely taught me that. We had some really bad days where like there were no sales, the weather was awful, and then we had some really great days where like there were lines around the corner and people were just buying everything up.
Mm-hmm. How did on those days? Those days are the best, but we're talking about those bad days today.
Oh, are we? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Failing forward. Yeah, the bad days are tough. Yeah, let's chat about that.
How did you, I think, like speaking about those bad days, how did you frame learning opportunities when it all just felt like overwhelming and frustrating and annoying and like we're not making sales? Like, how were you able to kind of convert some positivity out of that?
Yeah.
If at all, right? If at all.
Yeah. I'm trying to like think back on the days where, what's interesting, it's kind of weird. I was reading a particular book. Here, let me get it actually. It's right here.
Oh, I love this. This is like experiential.
I love books. I'm a librarian. We love books.
So,
we wanna promote books here.
So really, yeah, a great friend of mine bought me this book. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. This is a particular translation by this Eknath guy. Eknath. I particularly like his translations because he has a few others. It's an ancient Indian text from the Vedas, basically like very ancient text. It kind of predates the Bible. I think like 3,000 years old. Anyways, they say that if no other text ever survived, that the Bhagavad Gita would be enough to like sustain order and society and stuff because of what it teaches. Anyways, there's this really particular lesson that came from that book, and I was reading this while I had my food cart days. On the slower days, I'll read it. And the particular lesson that came from it was you should never be attached to results. Like, don't get attached to, and the way that I kind of applied it to my food cart days was like, don't get attached to, you know, hitting sale numbers. Like, definitely go for it. Like, oh, I want to have 100 customers today. Or I want to make $600 today or something like that. It's more like, don't get attached to it. You want to shoot for the sky, but don't ever because when you attach yourself to those success parameters, you then ride it, whether it goes up or it goes down. And obviously the down slope is the worst, because if you get dragged down, then your mood will really get impeded. So as soon as I started detaching myself, it's interesting how like, I mean, if it's all retrospective, but it's interesting how I would look back and say, oh wow, now that I detach myself, now I have like tons of customers and stuff like that. But that was a big one when I had the food cart.
Yeah, that's what they say about confidence. Like, if you have confidence in your idea, if you have confidence going forward, you just attract that back.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're saying too about not attaching yourself to outcomes. And it's hard because when you are, let's say, a single founder, like, your identity is infused within the success of your organization. So like, as you're trying to detach yourself from outcomes, you're kind of detaching yourself from the spark or the excitement that is you and that is your venture. So it's like finding that middle ground, right?
Yeah, and also like, okay, so definitely attaching yourself to like being that spark of the business, but also not, obviously you want to succeed by all means, like we all want to succeed with what we're going for, but we don't do it for the success. We do it because of the impact it creates. Yep. And what's interesting is a lot of people are like, oh, well, success is sales, right? I'll make sales in my business. No, it's the impact that it creates for the customer or for the client or for the receiver of the service, right? That's why you do it, regardless of whether or not it pays the bills, regardless of whether or not it does anything. As long as it makes the receiving audience happy, or it brings them the value that it needs to bring them. That's why you do it. You know, bringing, you know, selling food on the food cart to nourish people, not to take their money, not to, you know, but to make it a delightful meal for them. Selling coffee because they enjoy coffee, not to sell the coffee for the money. You know, that is what you do it for, that passion, and that's what and you don't want to attach yourself for the revenue or for the sales and all that. That was you know, taking it a step further, but yeah,
I love that, because that's very insightful about like focusing on, like Marina was saying, like not the results, focusing on the passion and the reason you're doing it. I love that question of why driving you through the failure. Like, this is why I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this for a reason that's not to do with success and failure. It's to do with this and that. So that's really interesting.
And it's hard enough being a founder and always remembering your why and like this bigger mission and impact. I think when you start to expand your team, the way you're teaching culture and the way you're teaching the vision of your company is how you're going to maintain the success of your team, right? I don't know, Will, do you have folks interning or working for the time, or is it just you right now for Bequest?
It's kind of just me. I have like cousins and friends kind of help me on the days that I need to do like a big roast. But right now I'm just working on the internal business, growing it out. And then I'm hoping as COVID goes down and we kind of reopen to society, that's when I'd like to hire some folks and then hopefully open up a coffee shop.
Yes,
Really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar. I love.
Yes. That is the ultimate goal.
I think it's interesting because right before, at the beginning, you were talking about asking people why, or trying to understand their reason and their why. And so as you expand and you're inviting more people onto your team in the future, I'm curious, like, what are you looking for to see that resilience in them? And what are you looking for in their responses to make sure that when those bad days happen at the food trucks, like they're going to keep persevering and they're going to keep going?
You know what I like is when I go to like restaurants or cafes and there's just a genuine interest in service. And it's not because I'm trying to get a tip. It's not because I'm getting paid for this job, but it's because I genuinely care about someone else's, happiness or pleasure at the scene. So like if they're at the coffee shop and I had an employee, the way that, or if I was like looking for employees, it's about just, like, okay, there could be a bad day. It could be Wednesday, it's a hump day, right? It could be a tough day at work and all this stuff. But just realizing that the bigger picture is about being positive and just like, sure, maybe it was bad out there, but in here, it's gonna, we decide what the vibe is, and the vibe is always good. And then you as an employee, you have the ability to have that impact on people. And maybe it's something that you kind of bring to their attention. You have the power to make someone's day.
I love that talk about company culture versus monetary goals. That's really important. And that's something I didn't think about.
Yeah. And it's like, it'll have that residual impact, right? As long as the customer is happy and as long as you give them good service, you're not going to twist their arm to buy your product, but maybe in the long term they'll buy your product. But ultimately the best thing you could do is, hey, those people are cool. I'll go there again.
Did you always have this mindset, or has this come about through
reading or getting a mentor? We asked yesterday about that too.
This feels very like you're recentering humanity, you're recentering positivity at all times, and I think that brain power to do so is really high level. So I'm asking, like, how did you get there, and how could you recommend other folks being able to get there and expand? Sorry, this is like a long question, just having that really holistic picture of centering customer service, centering people's needs and wants at all times.
We want to know everything. We want to know if you meditate. We want to know how much coffee you drink. We want to follow everything.
I do meditate. Sometimes I meditate more than other times. I have like my seasons and stuff. I think meditation is an integral part to like anything. Entrepreneurism, definitely. Definitely, but just like life, and it's not even because of the spiritual side of it, which I deeply believe in, or the religious part of it, like Buddhism. It's more like the psychological part of it, of just like giving your brain a break to just be, and whatever goes on, whatever minds pop up and boil up, just let them. And because there can be so much stimulus and stimuli in the world, and by meditating you kind of like you can open yourself back up to it. But yeah, no, I think the bigger question on, like, I don't think I've always had this mentality. I think it's definitely developed over time. I used to apply it to life. Now like life outside of business. Now I kind of just apply it everywhere. And I think that it definitely helps because it just simplifies things, I guess, and it makes things simple. Yeah.
I have a question. We talked yesterday with our other guest about sort of like work-life balance, and we got the impression that like when you're an entrepreneur and you were talking about passion, it's very hard to not eat, sleep, breathe your product and your business. But it sounds like you're able to sort of separate the two.
Yeah.
A little?
No, a lot actually. I do separate the two. And that's a bad thing on my part to some degree. I think it's important to have like work-life balance, and sometimes the balance between work and life is passion. But like at least for me, but I have been too much life, and I need to focus a lot more on the business, and that's, you know, that's just the thing, you know, life is like a wave and stuff like that, and sometimes I want to sometimes I'll say, damn, I didn't work on Bequest enough this week, so then I'll work on it. Or you really got to set time aside, and it has a lot to do with like the whole spiritual aspect too, like meditation and stuff. Like the more time and even mind or like thought that you devote to your idea, the closer it comes to fruition. But the less time you devote to your idea, the further from fruition, in my opinion. And that's how it works, because honestly, no one's going to work for it. Marina's not going to like get off and freaking work on Bequest for me later. You know, I have to work on it. And if I don't work on it this week and I say, okay, I'll do it next week, and then next week comes and I'll say, okay, I'll do it next week, then, you know, 3 weeks have passed and I haven't worked on my business idea. And then I wonder why I'm behind, you know? So I definitely think like, I've been kind of like faltering a little bit. I've been on the low side, and I have to focus in on it again. And then another thing, this is actually really important. Forgive yourself.
Yes,
Like, don't get angry for yourself.
Yep. Yes.
Not like, damn, I didn't work on it last week, I suck. And then this week, oh damn, I didn't work on it this week, I suck. Like, that's a very bad relationship to have with yourself, to crap on yourself. Like, you have to be forgiving to yourself and like say, all right, listen, maybe I was just busy, but I'll do better tomorrow, type of thing. Or I'll do better tonight, or I'll start tonight and I'll make a list for tomorrow. And then that's what I'll get to tomorrow.
That's fascinating, because that's like the day by day failures. Like, that's not like that's framing failures as like minor failures, not like, oh, this big thing happened and I have to get over it, but like that constant feeling of like, oh, I didn't work enough. That's another type of failure. Yeah,
I feel like they build up too. You know, like those little ones are what become the bigger ones, you know. Like I said, if I didn't do work this week, and then next week and the following week, it'll be a whole month where I didn't do work on it. That's a bigger failure, because and then I might say I like prolong something and I didn't hit the deadlines. Those deadlines are set because I was supposed to deliver 500 pounds of coffee for the month of February, but because I didn't hit my deadlines, now I'm behind on everything, and that amounts to a bigger failure.
I think just like setting realistic expectations for yourself. What's the saying? It's like, I literally heard it this morning. You overestimate what you can do in a day and underestimate what you can do in a year. So it's centering and understanding yourself and your productivity a lot. And I think for me too, like I can't beat myself up every day if I don't hit certain benchmarks, because I will exhaust myself and burn out, and then my business is nothing. And so I think being so gentle, because you are your worst critic, is like very salient advice. Will, it's really good.
Yeah, like a recent failure, I'll tell you about this one. Like, so I started with these jars. These are the 11-ounce jars, so this is 11 ounces of coffee. I started with these are about $15 a piece, and then I take a $2.50 deposit when someone purchases it. When they return the jar, they get their deposit back. So in total, you're talking $17.50 plus tax. That was the starting product, and in some cases it's a lot of coffee. So I said, you know what I need is a smaller jar. So I made these. These are smaller jars. I call them sampler jars, and these are about 5 ounces of coffee. So it's a little less than half of the other one. My hope and intention was to roll these out way before Christmas, so that they can be available for Christmas gifts, right? Because of everything that happens in the timeline, for product development stuff, I had to develop these labels, right? I had to design it. I had to get them printed. I had to make sure that when they printed, they were fine. I had to order these jars. I had to order the lids, and then I had to put it all together. And then I had to take pictures and basically everything to finally bring you this final product and then advertise it. I set out to do this back in October. Some things were delayed. I dragged my feet on some other things. So I failed at executing this on time, or at least with enough time. I executed it like December 20th. It was available and live, but by then people's Christmas presents were purchased. So I just put it out, and what I ended up realizing is that it was practice, right? You don't have to get it perfect the first time, but I'm definitely ready for next year. And I'm definitely ready for Valentine's Day. I'm definitely ready for other kind of events. So
it sounds like you learned from your experiences, which is really important, because we were talking yesterday about falling off the horse. And it sounds like you're able to get back on the horse pretty easily, which is admirable.
Oh, you have to. Yeah. When you have enough hardships, you realize failing at this was no big deal. You're like, oh man, that could have been so much worse, and I know that.
Yeah. And I think it's important for me to note that I tend to forget negative things that happen in my life, like more often than I really should. And so because of that, I need to continue to just track the institutional failures and knowledge that I'm getting from those, like in Dream Kit and in these other experiences, so that I'm not centering positivity at all times and just forgetting those lessons learned, because that's an easy thing for me to do. Also, our panelists said that they can relate to everything we're saying, so keep it up.
Nice.
We want to sort of wrap up and with a last question, Marina.
Yeah. So many in my head. I think, well, for you, how if you can be the little voice in someone who's watching this now or later in their head when they're experiencing a failure in their business, what would you tell them?
If I could be the little voice.
And they're just like deep in it, right? Like this is the like 5th, 6th, 7th failure, and they feel like they're on the verge of quitting. What is that piece of advice?
Can I tell a little story? I guess I could tell a little story, right?
I would love to.
Yeah. So the way Bequest started was not even, I didn't say, oh shit, I want to start an e-commerce business. I said I wanted to start a cafe with a roaster in it. That's all I wanted to do. The numbers weren't in my favor for so many reasons. One, I would have had to put so much capital down and probably sell a kidney to get started. And I failed at that, right? I tried to get a cafe space. I tried to go for the ideal one. It would cost me about $250,000, like $300,000. Not happening. Not a good idea. And then that failed, right? And then we looked at another cafe space. Didn't work out. That kept failing. And what was a coffee roasting business or a cafe, then turned into just a coffee roaster. I said, all right, let me just buy a coffee roaster and roast for myself. And so there's an interesting quote that really pertains to this that I think, I wish I knew the author and actually the literal quote, but it goes along the lines of, as long as you're okay with it, damn, I really want this quote, because it's like, as long as you're okay with succeeding, not in the way that you expected, but as long as you're not attached to the method of the way you expected to succeed, then success will come. Like my idea of success was a cafe with a roaster in New Haven downtown. But it's completely different. I rent a roaster I bring green beans to a coffee roaster collective, which is where you can rent a machine, roast your beans, and then I put it on e-commerce and it's online. I'm still a coffee roaster. I sell coffee, which is I love, and I brought the idea to fruition, just not the way I had originally intended or thought I would.
Yeah, and that's so important too, because it's like you're blocking your blessings if you're sticking with this one idea of success that
Real
you
talk.
thought, and in that you're limiting creativity and you're limiting the fun that it could be to experience something totally new than what was originally thought of. So
Got to be like water, like just because
Yeah.
you're hitting a dam, stop trying to break through that dam, try to roll around it and find the way.
Little osmosis metaphor.
I don't know if osmosis works.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to think of the quote that you're thinking of, and I feel like there's like a saying that's like, the only plan you can make is like it's gonna fail, like you can't plan to plan or something like that. And I'm just like, what is it? So it's bothering me too.
That's so good. Maybe someone we'll look it up and then we'll post it on the.
I think it's so true. Like you can plan and plan and plan, but it's never going to go according to that plan, and it might be better for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so well put. I'll definitely forward it to you guys so that you can maybe read it on one of the on your future sessions. But
Cool.
it's a good one. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Will.
Very philosophical, spiritual take on.
This was a great program. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, Will, because yes, we focused on business and failing forward, but we were able to infuse like just real life, spirituality and or like how to balance family and or just being a real person outside of your business. I think that's a really important topic to always keep front of mind. So
we have a comment in the chat before we leave. I appreciate your very philosophical, spiritual take on defining your motivation, invoking universal energy to fuel your business. I've studied Buddhist philosophy and I'm definitely on board with this. Thank you. So it looks like we have some happy patrons too.
You got a good audience.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. Good energy.
Well, I hope everyone tunes in tomorrow. And thank you so much for doing this. This was
Hey, thanks for the invite. This is fun.
All right.
Always fun to talk. Take it easy,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Appreciate
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.